Just trying to clean off my mic of any dust. Welcome back to my channel, Hanging with Kiki ASMR. Today, I am excited to read 4 creepy stories to you. It literally took me hours to find good stories that I wanted you guys to hear. So I hope that you enjoyed these as much as I did. It's another hot summer morning, and I can already feel the temperature rising in the room fairly quickly. So I'm gonna jump right in. This first story is called I Was Cornered by a Man on My Walk Home, and Something Spooked Him Away. This happened in New York City years ago when I was a freshman in college. I was out partying one night with some friends. I wasn't drunk or on hard drugs, but I definitely smoked a blunt or two. Around 3 a.m., we went our separate ways, and I got off the train and began walking home. I had to take a longer route home that night because some train lines were under maintenance. When I got off the train, I realized I had to walk past the cemetery, and I started to feel uneasy, but I wasn't afraid for any real reason. About 10 blocks and I'm home. I always saw trucks lined up on the cemetery blocks, and being it was a desolate area, I assumed truckers would park their trucks by the cemetery to take naps or sleep before continuing their routes. Back then, I thought nothing of it. A few minutes after getting off the train, I heard a faint sound of what I guessed was a truck door being shut behind me. I turned around and saw nothing. I scanned my surroundings once quickly and didn't see one other person ahead or behind me for as far as I could see. I keep walking, this time a bit faster, and about a minute later, I hear footsteps behind me. I turned so quick and saw a man walking fast a few feet behind me. When he saw me turn, he began catcalling me by making kissing noises. I was used to these catcalls, especially living in New York City. By my house, there would be a line of men on the corner every morning, waiting to be picked up for construction work, and every time I passed them to go to the store, I would get catcalled and harassed. So I ignored him and kept walking, but definitely faster this time. A few seconds later, he was running to catch up with me, and he was now at my side, speaking to me in Spanish, which I don't speak. He grabbed my arm tightly and began pulling me toward him. When I started screaming and fighting him off, he pushed me up against the cemetery fence, and in the midst of this, my heart sunk to the floor, as I thought, I'm about to get raped, or worse. Seconds later, he had me off my feet by both arms. His face turned white in the moonlight. A face of pure horror as he looked past me into the cemetery, fixated on something. He let out a blood-curdling scream and let me go. As I dropped to the floor, he was already across the street and running out of sight. Choking on my tears, shaking beside myself, I picked myself up and ran so fast the last few blocks to my house. I did not turn to look inside that cemetery once. I did not turn around at all. I did not stop until I was home. I never took that train or walked past that cemetery again. And to be honest, I never told my parents and only told a handful of friends over the years, because till this day, I still don't understand what happened, but something probably saved my life. And that is the end of that first story, which is fucking crazy. It honestly leaves so much to the imagination of what this dude, who was trying to fucking rape this girl, must have saw to make him run away. I imagine for some reason like a skin crawler, like in the background, but it could have been anything. Who fucking knows? Maybe there was some dude in the cemetery with a gun coming towards them. I don't know, but what's even more disturbing is the fact that catcalling is fucking normal. Whenever I get catcalled, the first thing I think is, oh, it's a fucking piece of shit douchebag. Like, literally. If I'm catcalled, you have zero chance. Anyway, that should not be normal, and guys who catcall need to get their shit together. On to the next story. Okay, this next story is equally as disturbing, and I have a little bit I want to say after I read it. It is called You Made the Right Choice. So, this happened a couple days ago. I live in the suburbs of Northern California with my parents in an upper middle class neighborhood. My parents are away for their anniversary, so I've had the place to myself for the week. I got home from a late shift at work around 1 a.m. I went inside, showered, then I headed to the kitchen to make some buffalo wings for dinner. I crack open a beer and sit in front of the TV. I was sifting through movies to watch on HBO Plus when all of a sudden, the doorbell rings. It actually startled me to the point that I actually jumped off the couch, knocking my beer over in the process. It's now 2 a.m., and there was no good reason for anyone to be at the door at this hour. I just stared in the direction of the front door for several seconds before it rang again, followed by rapid knocking on the door and window. Now, for whatever reason, I was no longer scared, but more annoyed by the fact that some idiot would think it's an appropriate time to be banging on someone's front door. I head over to the front door, unlock the deadbolt, and pull the front door open, leaving the chain in place. In the heat of the moment, I did not think to look out the window first. I just yanked the door open. Standing on my front porch was a woman around mid-20s with long black hair and a purple hoodie and black pants. I said, "Can I help you?" And she responded with, "Yeah, sorry to bother you so late, but my boyfriend and I are having some car trouble and our phones are dead. We were wondering if you could possibly let us use yours." She pointed up the street to a dark-colored sedan parked underneath the street lamp and said, "See, that's us right there." Now, had this been any other person, I'd have said no, but she looked innocent, like she was a college student. I live in a college town, and it wasn't uncommon for college kids to be out late on a Friday night. I asked her where her boyfriend was, and she said he walked to the gas station to see if anyone had a phone there. I pulled my iPhone out and told her to make it quick as I was about to go to bed. She thanked me and said she'd only take 2 seconds. She took my phone and dialed a number and put the phone up to her ear. After a couple rings, whoever she called picked up and she said, "Yeah, it's me. I'm borrowing someone's phone." She stopped talking and I could barely make out a man's voice on the other end. Now, at this point, I started to feel uneasy. She was taking a lot longer to be done with the phone call, and I started to get impatient. The whole time she just stood there staring at me with this wide-eyed expression expression and a creepy smile that looked forced while this person on the other end kept talking. She finally said, "Okay, bye," and handed me the phone back. She then said, "Do you think I might be able to come inside to use your bathroom?" I said no, and wished her good luck before shutting the door. Right as I was about to walk away, I heard her laugh and say, "You made the right choice." I looked out the peephole, and she was still standing on my porch, but now she had a man standing next to her. He looked to be around her age and was wearing a hoodie and a face mask. The pair then started to circle around my house, banging on windows and laughing. I didn't hesitate to call 911 at this point. They stuck around for several minutes trying to get in through my back door. I had my Glock 19 in hand, aimed at the back door with 911 on speaker, and was prepared to do whatever I had to do if they got in. They banged on my back door for around 5 minutes before they finally left. I watched them run up the street to that same black sedan I mentioned earlier and take off up the street. Cops showed up a few minutes later and took a report. They told me that I was the third person to call them that night, reporting a suspicious couple attempting to enter homes. I don't know what they had planned, but I'm inclined to believe it was nothing nice. Moral of the story is never answer the front door at 2 a.m., especially without looking to see who it is first. I learned my lesson that night. And that is the end of that second crazy story. I actually was reading an article or something where people will feel more inclined to help women because they feel less threatened, when in reality, obviously, that's not the case. People are dangerous in general. I read because of that statistic, if there's ever a woman outside your door or window or house claiming that she needs help, and you're alone, or not even if you're alone, what you can do is take your phone and tell her through the glass door or through the door that you will dial the number for her, but do not let her or him into your home, because something like this might happen. I hope I explained that correctly. Okay, on to story 3. This is a paranormal ghost story. I just had to throw that in there. This story is called Never Mock a Ghost. People say this a lot, never mock a ghost, but most people think you can't mock something that doesn't exist. I believed you couldn't mock something that doesn't exist. How do you expect me to believe a concept similar to Santa or God? Well, no one truly understands or believes until they get given some sort of sign. I always thought the idea of ghosts was stupid. Just something people can make petty money on by fools willing to pay to watch them run around and scream at any given noise. Despite not believing them, I'm also an adrenaline junkie, so I loved going to haunted places for the thrill of it. This started on a holiday when I got offered a tour of a haunted basement. I was around 12 at the time, and I caught something on camera I'd never forget. It was a full face of an older boy at the end of the corridor in the basement, his mouth wide open. For so long, I brushed it off as being a light or something completely normal. I was so ignorant. But years later, at the age of 16, something happened that opened my mind forever. I mindlessly mocked a ghost. I was in one of the most haunted places in the UK, Newsham Park Asylum, hospital orphanage, and my ignorant self thought it was fake. I took my finger off the Ouija board while mocking the ghosts, calling it bullshit. It was cold, and I went sweaty hot, unlike the others with me, and I fainted. I woke in a puddle of my own blood. It was a warmth like no other. It was when my mind went loopy from the heat that I started taking my coat off and undressing. The warmth wouldn't go. 6 months ago in a house I moved into with my roommate. She had lived there for a year prior, and once I moved in, we started rearranging the living room. I need to note that there were old bedroom sets in the basement from the original owners of the house. Bed frames, dressers, and mirrors. Back to the living room, there was a mirror on the wall opposite the fireplace, with a mirror above the mantel. The mirror opposite the fireplace came from the basement and was hung up by the girl that lived there before I moved in. So I take the mirror off the wall as we are putting our TV in that spot and prop it against the wall, perpendicular to the wall it was hung, until we can figure out where to put it. This is when we started to notice weird things happening and hadn't quite realized the mirror could be the issue. There is a cot in the basement that was set up apparently by the owner of the house, if he ever came to town. Weird in my opinion, but whatever. Well, the lights above the cot randomly stopped working, and that corner of the basement just started having an eerie vibe. I tell my roommate this, and we go down to investigate. What we found scared the shit out of us. Bare footprints on the cot, seemingly pacing back and forth side to side. No one in their right mind would walk barefoot down there, as it's dirty and there's been rats. We measured our feet next to the prints, and while roughly the same length, they were way too wide to be either of ours. A couple days later, I am down in the basement doing laundry. I make my dog come down there with me because it's so creepy. He wouldn't stop staring at the corner containing the cot, and I felt like I was being watched. A moment later, the lights above the washer and dryer started flickering, so I got the hell out of there. The same day, later in the afternoon, I'm standing in the living room on the phone with my brother, talking about work with my back to the mirror propped against the floor. My dog starts growling and aggressively barking. My initial thought was both mine and my roommate's dog were behind me fighting over a toy, so I snapped at them to stop, and when I turned around, it was just my dog staring into the mirror, but not looking at his reflection. He's 5 years old and has seen his reflection thousands of times. It doesn't concern him. So that freaked me out, and is when I started connecting dots. I had a betta fish in a tank on one side of the mirror, and my roommate had a cool palm tree-like plant on the other side. My fish died suddenly, and the plant wasn't doing well no matter her efforts. I have to note, I had been telling my roommate that the mirror seemed warped because I felt like I looked horrible and fat when I saw myself in it walking into the room. She apparently had also noticed this. So I bring up my mirror theory to her, and she immediately grabs the mirror and puts it in our detached garage in the backyard. We both felt better about this until the next day. I went out back to smoke, and it was raining, so I opened the garage door for some shelter. A fluorescent bulb was on the floor in the middle of the garage, as though it had fallen. But it was not on a place it would have seemingly landed, and it was completely unbroken. It's like someone laid it there. I look up to see the mirror facing me, and I got the fuck out. I explained this to my roommate, and we immediately grabbed the mirror to walk it across the street to Goodwill. Super convenient in this moment. She's holding it by the wire it hung on for years, and the moment we reach the edge of the property, the wire snaps, and the mirror falls to the ground without breaking. This thing did not want to leave. We get it across the street and leave it. The next day, the lights in the basement started working, and we had no other weird experiences. I'm including pictures in the comments of the mirror, footprints, and of the fluorescent bulb that fell. Let me know if you guys have any questions and or theories on this one. I've never had any experiences like this. basement. That is pretty alarming to find footprints in your house that don't belong to you or your roommate. I would honestly probably jump to the conclusion that someone was breaking in and sleeping there, or that someone was like living in the walls, like in that movie that I can't remember the name of. Oh no, I don't want to, it's a spoiler anyway, so I won't say. Anyway, that is the end of today's horror story session. I hope that you found these stories to be well written and pretty creepy. I really, really liked the first two. Those ones legitimately, when I imagined them, I felt like an emotional response because it's fucking scary. People are so much scarier than hauntings.